We're not going to talk much about generators other than to say that they're another way to iterate. And you really define a generator simply by putting a yield keyword instead of a return keyword. And a yield keyword can occur anywhere inside a typical function in order to create a generator. And basically what it does is it's an iterator which remembers its point in the iteration, and it returns to that point only when we make another request. Right, so we're not going to provide any examples or go much deeper into that, but generators can be useful and they're a good thing to know about. Now, one of the last subjects we're going to talk about here is just error handling. Error handling in Python involves using try and except. Let's look at an example here. We've defined a function here where we're simply adding x and y. So 5 plus 3 is probably 8. Now we remember that when we try to add a string to a integer, we're going to get an exception. Although this is very helpful in the development environment to have this type of detail when we throw an error, we really don't want that in production. We don't want people to see the ugly errors that may be happening when we have a bug in our code. And that's what try and except is for. So what we're saying here is, look, try this. If it works, then great. If it doesn't work, present something more elegant than this big clunky error message. So here we're going to run this again without an error, and it gives us 8. But when we turn this into a string, it's going to go to the whoops message instead of this big ugly error message. So that's really what error handling is all about, and it's a principle in coding generally that we want to handle our errors when we go to production. Okay, the last subject in this course is just the idea of accessing files in Python, and in order to demonstrate this, we've created a CSV file here just with some names in it, Tom, Sally, and Jane with their ages, and we've included that file in our root folder for PyProj. And so we don't really need to provide much in the way of a path here. We just have created a variable called path that's names.csv, and you'll notice that is the name of this file here. And once we have a path created, we can just simply use the open path method. Then we can loop through this CSV file using a comprehension, and we can just print these lines out. And so let me run this, and it's going to grab those items inside that CSV file. This is kind of a raw way to access files compared to the way we can access files with tools like pandas. And so we'll do a bit more comparison when we get to that point in our course. But for now, we're done with this course. So congratulations for your endurance through these, I think it's been 28 or 29 videos. The purpose of this has just been to give us a light experience and a broad preview of Python, hoping that you now have a pretty broad view of what Python can do. We also recommend you definitely experiment with some of the concepts that we've laid out here. But at this point, we're going to move on to look at numpy